You ever have someone try to destroy your peace and accidentally end their own career instead? Because that's exactly what happened when my HOA president called the cops on me for trespassing in my own backyard. Big mistake. I'm a municipal judge with the power to shut down her entire corrupt operation. It was 9:17 a.m. on a Saturday in Texas. The kind of heat that sticks to your skin like regret. Sweat ran down my back as I fought a stubborn fence post into the ground. Then whoop whoop, sirens. 3 squad cars screamed into my driveway, tires crunching gravel like broken glass. I straightened up, dirt under my nails, heartbeat thudding in my ears. And there she was. Cordelia Blackthorne, the HOA president, standing beside her white Lexus with that smug smile people get when they think they VA finally got you cornered. Behind her, 3 officers stepped out, hands resting on their belts. I met their eyes calmly. What Cordelia didn't know was that for the past 6 months, I'd been quietly building a federal fraud case against her. And now, she'd just handed me Exhibit A. Let me back up a bit. My name's Harrison Webb, and I've been a municipal judge for 20 years. After my divorce last spring, I wanted a quiet place to start over, somewhere I could rebuild my life and maybe dust off my old woodworking tools. Maplewood Estates looked perfect. 147 homes, kids riding bikes, the smell of jasmine in the morning air. My new house sat on a big corner lot with a massive backyard, the perfect spot for the workshop ID always dreamed of. I was paying $185 a month in HOA dues, pricey but manageable. I figured I was buying into a peaceful, well-run community. That illusion lasted exactly 3 weeks. Enter Cordelia Blackthorne. 49 years old, 8 years as president, and power drunk on every single one of them. Imagine a corporate shark in designer heels, perfectly ironed clothes, precision haircut sharp enough to slice paper, perfume so strong you could smell her coming 3 houses away. Cordelia ruled this neighborhood like a dictator wrapped in pearls. She used sweet words like hun and sweetie, the way assassins use poison, gentle at first, deadly by the end. My first taste of her leadership came when a teenager smashed my mailbox with a baseball bat. I replaced it with an identical one, same model, same color. 3 days later, a thick certified letter landed on my porch. Violation notice. Unauthorized exterior modification. $150 fine, escalating daily. I read it twice just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Then my judge's instincts kicked in. The HOA rules or CC&RS said nothing about replacing a damaged mailbox. I checked every clause. Nothing. Then I walked the neighborhood. Dozens of identical mailboxes, many newer than mine. No violations anywhere else. That's when I realized this wasn't about rules. It was about control. My neighbor Marcus, house number 47, electrician, straight talker, wandered over one afternoon with a beer in hand. "Let me guess," he said. "Cordelia's marked you for destruction." Turns out I wasn't alone. Mrs. Chen at number 23 had been fined for having too many garden decorations. A veteran named Earl got written up for flying an American flag. Marcus himself was penalized for installing solar panels, all properly permitted. A pattern was forming. Cordelia wasn't protecting community standards. She was targeting new residents, people who didn't yet know how deep her claws went. So I did what I do best. Built a case, photos, receipts, public records, everything. A few weeks later, I decided to install a simple cedar privacy fence. I filed the official request, paid the $75 review fee, and waited for approval. 30 days passed, and 40. Nothing. So, I hired a licensed surveyor. He marked my property line with bright orange flags and gave me a report, proving every inch of the fence would be well inside my boundary. Saturday morning, I started digging. The rhythmic chunk, chunk, chunk of the post-hole digger echoed across the yard. Marcus brought coffee. Mrs. Chen waved from her porch. For the first time in months, I felt peace. Then came the white Lexus. Cordelia climbed out with a clipboard and a dollar store tape measure, heels sinking into my grass. "Stop right there," she snapped. "You're trespassing on HOA property." I handed her the survey report. Actually, every post is 6 inches inside my line. GPS verified she didn't even look. "The HOA has easement rights," she said, "and you're in violation of community aesthetics." I didn't argue. I just pulled out my phone and started recording. Calm voice, steady hands. Ma'am, I'm within my property and have all the necessary permits. That's when she did it. Cordelia called the police from my lawn, claiming I was trespassing on her community property. 12 minutes later, sirens. 2 squad cars rolled up. Out stepped Sergeant Rodriguez, a man I'd known for years from my courtroom. Your Honor?
Nice.
He said, raising an eyebrow. Cordelia's face drained of color faster than a cheap paint job in the rain. I don't care if he's the Pope, she shouted. He's violating HOA rules. Rodriguez reviewed my permits, survey everything, then turned to her. Ma'am, he's building on his own property. You're the one trespassing. Her retreat was legendary. She spun on her heel, muttering something about aesthetic review, and marched back to her Lexus. Marcus grinned. Judge, she just messed with the wrong guy. He was right, because now it was personal. That night, I pulled every HOA document I could access. Budgets, meeting minutes, expense reports. What I found made my stomach turn. Nearly $400,000 in annual dues collected, yet the neighborhood looked like it had done. He's seen a fresh coat of paint since 2015. Then one line item jumped out. Pinnacle Property Services, LLC, $89,000 for landscaping, $47,000 for pool maintenance, $31,000 for utilities, all to the same company. Quick public record search revealed the owner, Derek Blackthorne, Cordelia's brother-in-law. The next week, the harassment started. Violation notices for unapproved landscaping because I'd planted tomatoes, for excess outdoor storage because of a garden hose. It's even one for having a doormat inconsistent with community standards, for fines in a week, $800 total. And then came the false police complaints, anonymous city reports, and whispers on the neighborhood Facebook group. Cordelia thought she was wearing me down. What she didn't realize was that every fake complaint, every lie, every recorded voicemail was another nail in her legal coffin. 2 weeks later, Cordelia called an emergency HOA meeting. When I walked into the community center, the air smelled like old coffee and fear. She opened the session with a speech about disruptive residents undermining board harmony. I let her talk. Then I stood up, opened my folder, and started presenting. Photos of selective enforcement, copies of budget inconsistencies, proof that Pinnacle Property Services had never gone through competitive bidding. Where, I asked, are the financial records showing who approved these payments? Silence. Board member Bob Morrison, the insurance agent, shifted in his chair. Cordelia, he said, is this true? She stammered something about bookkeeping delays, then, in a panic, accused me of intimidation. Bob shut her down cold. Motion dies for lack of a second. I walked out knowing one thing for sure. The cracks in her empire were finally showing. Days later, I was served with a restraining order, Cordelia's latest stunt. She accused me of harassment and abuse of judicial power. Nice try. The hearing was set in Riverside County, outside my jurisdiction. But the presiding judge, Patricia Henley, was an old law school friend. Fair, sharp, unflappable. Cordelia's attorney, a flashy guy named Bradley Kensington, strutted into court like he was auditioning for law. In order, he painted me as a rogue judge terrorizing a community volunteer. Then I stood up, calm, precise. I presented timelines, financial records, and sworn statements from neighbors. Every word was factual. Every document authenticated. By the time I finished, the courtroom was silent, except for the sound of Cordelia's pen tapping against her binder. Judge Henley leaned forward. Motion denied, she said, and the court sanctions the petitioner for filing a frivolous case. Cordelia had to pay my legal costs. That gavel strike, sweetest sound I'd heard in years. Word spread fast. Marcus organized a backyard meeting. Dozens of residents showed up, folding chairs, cold drinks, determination in their eyes. Mrs. Chen brought a stack of old violation notices. Earl shared letters threatening him for flying the flag. Everyone had a story. We decided it was time to fight back legally, publicly, and together. A recall petition started circulating. Audits were requested. The county was alerted. Cordelia's name, once whispered in fear, was now spoken with defiance. One sleepless night, I went digging through county archives, original HOA incorporation documents from 1987, buried. But in the fine print was a clause that made my pulse race. Any board member convicted of fraud, embezzlement, or breach of fiduciary duty shall trigger immediate dissolution of the entire board and new elections within 60 days under county oversight. That was it, the kill switch. Cordelia's corruption wouldn't just cost her position, it would erase her entire board's power structure. I leaned back in my chair, exhaustion washing over me. Months of harassment, lies, and intimidation had led to this moment. And for the first time since moving to Maplewood, I felt peace. The annual HOA meeting was standing room only. Cordelia arrived late, hiding behind designer sunglasses. As residents demanded answers, I stood up one last time. This isn't about personal grudges, I said. It's about accountability. Then I handed the county auditor a thick folder, the complete evidence file, fraudulent invoices, fake maintenance claims, altered minutes. When the auditor announced the investigation, the room erupted in applause. Cordelia tried to shout something about misunderstandings, but nobody was listening anymore. By the end of that week, county investigators froze the HOA accounts. The board was dissolved, and Cordelia Blackthorne. Let's just say the Lexus hasn't been parked in Maplewood since. Standing in my backyard, I ran my hand along the cedar fence, the same one that started it all. The wood was smooth, warm from the sun. Justice doesn't always happen in courtrooms. Sometimes it happens one homeowner, one document, one truth at a time. So if someone tries to weaponize authority against you, stay calm, stay factual, and document everything. Bullies thrive on fear. But when the light hits them, they crumble. I looked around my quiet street, neighbors laughing, kids on bikes, the faint smell of barbecue in the air. Maplewood finally felt like home. Call to action. If you've ever had a power-hungry HOA president try to ruin your life, hit that subscribe button because trust me, you'll want to hear what happened when the FBI got involved next. And tell me in the comments, what's the worst HOA horror story you've heard?